All of you keeping your microphones muted during the presentation. We will have a chance at the end for questions. If you want to make your viewing experience a little better, I recommend the speaker view. In the top right-hand corner of your screen, there is a button that says view, and if you go to that and click on speaker, I think you'll have a better experience. And so with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Sherry, who's going to introduce Nancy.
Hi, I'm pleased to have the honor of introducing Nancy this evening. She is a tried and true Presbyterian through and through. Her grandfather came over from Italy on a boat as a young immigrant to New York. His family had to go to work in steel mills. He, being the youngest, represented the family at Catholic Mass on Sundays. While still a young man, he met a Presbyterian minister in New York, and hearing the message, he converted to Protestant Presbyterianism. He felt called by God to go into the ministry. He attended Columbia Seminary in New York, where he met a young woman who was getting her doctorate in Christian education in the Presbyterian tradition. They fell in love and entered a life of service together, a life that has left a lasting impression on Nancy and on her parents. In fact, it was her grandfather's work as a minister that brought her parents together. Reverend Mather was at First Pres for many years, and Nancy's mother and father were very involved at the church, serving on several committees over the years. Nancy's father was a preacher's kid, and she grew up here at First Presbyterian Church. She's very deeply rooted in Presbyterianism and in this church. Nancy served on session before representing youth and children. She has a heart for children in the heart of the city. She used to work with young children in worship, and she was co-chair of Summer Church Day Camp. Nancy has a vision for serving the city in mission. She emphasizes inclusion, paying attention to people of all ages, races, and socioeconomic backgrounds. She thinks it's important to be mindful of our environment. Nancy's work in the community also reflects her faith and holistic perspective. Nancy's involved in Montessori education. A spiritual and scientifically minded person was Montessori, who blended the two in education. Nancy believes that we need to have an education that prepares children for the future. Nancy's life reflects the synergistic relationship between her Presbyterian background and the Montessori educational philosophy. Nancy, we welcome you tonight and are eager to hear what you have to share with us. Thank you for who you are, as well as for all you do.
Thanks, Sherry. It's very complimentary. Thank you. As Sherry said, I grew up at First Pres and consider you all my church family. Over the years, members of First Pres have modeled generosity, both financially and of their time. Throughout my life, I have witnessed the value of serving others, you might say, has had my life rooted in stewardship, which if many of you know me very well, you know that trees are a passion for me. So Denise, if you want to go ahead and run the video or the PowerPoint. Is that up? As a Montessori teacher, my goal is to engage students in activities where their mind guides their hands. This purposeful activity lifts their spirits as they work enthusiastically. So tonight, I hope to lead you to purposeful work that lifts your spirits as well. I hope to demonstrate how the Missions Committee has risen from the ashes of the past year and transformed to meet the current conditions of our society. Next slide, please. The missions team has met via Zoom over the past year. This is a picture of some of our team members. I have found them to be a committed, caring, and cooperative group of people. In fact, there is no way that I could do this task without them. You know, it was a year ago today that we were asked to sequester in our homes and forced to learn how to adapt to new conditions brought on by COVID. The Missions Committee has rebounded from challenges and changes over the past year, and I applaud the efforts that all have made to respond to the needs of people during difficult times of their lives. You will also notice throughout my presentation that the staff at First Pres has stepped in to do our work when we were sheltering in place. Unfortunately, many of the mission's vital community activities were canceled in order to keep our members safe this year. But tonight, I'm going to share with you programs that were in place before COVID that are still waiting for the right time to resume, as well as activities that are going on today, but possibly a little bit different from years ago. It has been a trying year for the missions team, but we have lived up to our purpose statement of feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and caring for those in need. But we have carried on and even grown in our numbers. So after tonight, I'll hope you see where you can step in to help. Next slide. Everyone's a Neighbor has welcomed people into McKay Hall who were looking for fellowship, games, and a meal in the afternoons on the fourth Thursday of the month. 10 to 12 faithful volunteers serve 75 to 100 individuals. These volunteers put into action, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. We want to thank the generosity of you, the congregation, in helping to finance and carry out this neighborly outreach. We look forward to rekindling Thursday afternoons when it is safe to invite people in for food, fun, and fellowship again. Next slide. So we have a short video to share with you about what's going on at the Men's Rescue Mission. And there is a new building. So Annie, if you can play the Rescue Mission website.
The Fort Wayne Rescue Mission is truly a community of compassion. This is where we invite people to come in if they have a chronic illness, they have trauma in their lives, they're dealing with the issue of homelessness. They come to us and we immediately provide them with dignity and a sense of hope. The Fort Wayne Rescue Mission, as far as we're concerned, is a community of compassion. And that is where we invite individuals who are in a place of crisis to be able to receive the resources when they come to us. It's all about empowering people, giving them the resources, and together we are seeing lives transformed. You will see persons moving from crisis to a place where they're thriving and they are reintegrated into community. COVID-19 has come in and it has disrupted everything in society, including the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission. And if we're practicing social distancing, it means that we're not able to serve people the way we would do in a communal way during the day. And so there's still many people who are walking the streets of Fort Wayne. As places have been shut down, we've had to pivot and we've had to restructure the way we do things. But unfortunately, many are still falling through the cracks. So the new facility at the Rescue Mission, it represents hope, it represents dignity, it represents the best that the least of these deserve. And so your support gives us the tools so that we're able to serve people in the best possible way. It is your gift that helps to address the immediate needs, those basic needs, the emergency needs, but also those lives that have been transformed. Together, we are changing lives for good. Thank you very much.
So I am sure many of you felt like your hands were tied over the past year and were concerned for the men and families who received the meals you prepared and served during a time of crisis in their lives. In the past year, did you wonder how the people got by who didn't have a home where they could shelter in place or even find a warm spot to go to get out of the March weather? Since all the public buildings were closed and social distancing made it even less space available for them? Did you wonder how the people got by who lost their incomes due to restaurants, stores, and companies closing their doors? I'll tell you, we owe our thanks to our compassionate staff who's filled in when ours couldn't. Let's hear what Bill Patterson has to say about our local rescue mission.
Patterson here, First Presbyterian Church. Missions Committee is what I'm going to talk about here for a few minutes. I'm going to talk about the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission and the food banks during the pandemic. The Fort Wayne Rescue Mission, we did not stop serving food over there throughout the pandemic. I would consider the Missions Committee essential, and so did everyone else. So we continued delivering food over there on a monthly basis. As far as the third Sunday goes, they would not allow volunteers, but we were able to deliver the food over there, which was great to do. And the mission, because they went to, nobody allowed in the mission itself, they went to a grab and go. So people would come for breakfast and grab a sack and a bottle of water. Same thing for lunch, same thing for dinner. This kind of, everybody had to adapt to the pandemic, and we had to do some obvious things to help the mission out. First Presbyterian Mission Team delivered pallets of water, hundreds of loaves of bread, tortillas, peanut butter and jelly, chips. I mean, everything you could imagine. And it was a scramble going out into the city, trying to find some of these things in the height of the pandemic. But we were very successful. We always got them what they needed, and they were always very thankful. The food banks, same thing. We continued to supply the food banks because the food banks got extremely busy during the pandemic. We took not only the food that they get on a monthly basis, they would call us and say, hey, we need some peanut butter and jelly, or we need some mashed potatoes, or whatever the case may be. And we went out into the city and found what we needed and delivered it to the food banks to keep them up and going and make sure people were eating. I mean, that's our goal here, right? Feed the hungry, clothe the naked. That's what we continue to do. In December, the old rescue mission became a women's shelter and a warming center. This went without being part of the rescue mission, so there wasn't anybody really in charge except for the churches. So a lot of the churches came together and were serving meals over there. A lot of the local businesses like Clem's, Don Chavez, Umi were all delivering lunches and breakfasts over there. We even served Mary Jane Omerod. I can't thank her enough. She served lasagna and salad with all the fixings on Christmas Day. The day after Christmas, I prepared, sloppy joes and pulled pork and homemade macaroni and cheese for 70 people. But it was a team effort. It was certainly the entire missions team helped, and it was very, very humbling to be able to do that. If it wouldn't have been for First Presbyterian Church, we wouldn't have been able to do it on our own. So not only the money wise, but just having First Presbyterian back the missions team was a wonderful thing. Also, I can't say enough about the staff. We weren't having volunteers come in here and help with the food. So it was the staff that came in and really came to bat for us all to help us get the food in here for the food banks, help us get the food prepared for the rescue mission and for the women's shelter. So a big thank you to everybody involved. I think we adapted and we did an A+ job during this pandemic. Thank you so much.
I have to say, Bill has been one mighty warrior out there for the good of all. So thank you, Bill, and the staff again. And please remember, we are now preparing meals for the rescue mission and Just Neighbors. So please sign up to help, whether it's making cornbread and cookies at home or helping to prepare meals at First Press in the kitchen for delivery. And hopefully one day soon, we will be able to serve again the people facing personal hardship at the various rescue missions. And as you notice, there are now 3 sites that we are serving. One for the men, one for the women, and then also for the families. So there is so much need out there. We can move on. Next slide. Yep, right there. Each month, First Presbyterian Church spends thousands of dollars, as Bill said, to place and deliver orders to 3 food banks: Wellspring, United Faith Presbyterian, and East Wayne Street Center. We have faithful members who help manage this important task, but when we couldn't, our staff reacted, adapted, and made decisions on how to continue First Press's mission for caring for people. We give thanks to all the helping hands. And by the way, FYI, we have resumed our grocery sack food collections. So please grab a bag and fill it on Sundays. Next slide. Wellspring goes to areas in need with their van, and we help provide the food to fill it up. Last spring, we were in touch with Wellspring to find out how we could help them. They wanted masks for their clients. So the mission teams found some masks and we got them to them. Later this year, we supplied them with hand sanitizer, laundry detergent, and other supplies. We will continue to support the needs of Wellspring and their outreach. Next slide. Last week, you heard about our neighborhood school, Washington Elementary. Members of First Press have provided food to teachers during conferences. That's always much appreciated. Helped tutor students and supplied blessings in a backpack. The needs of South Wayne Elementary was brought to our attention by Pat Cohart. This school doesn't have an active PTA, so there's not a source to go to when they are in need of things that are not in a school's budget. Because other programs were canceled, there was money in the mission's budget to buy a Gaga pit, which you see there, which my students really enjoy playing the Gaga pit, and snow shovels, because the kids can put their backs into a little labor and rid themselves of the snow. And to me, the most important thing is we provided shoes for students. Can you imagine not having shoes that fit or that were falling apart in the weather of last month? South Wayne's principal is so appreciative of the support that we have offered to their students. I think Pat's on our Zoom, and if you'd like to share some of your thoughts and feelings, Pat, this would be the time. So if you're there, Pat, all you have to do is unmute.
I was muted. Now do you hear me? Okay, I'm sorry. I've been volunteering at South Wayne for the past, 5-10 years at different things. And this year I asked what was really needed by the students. And the principal and assistant principal told how after Christmas, especially in the winter, so many of the kids' shoes were falling apart, or they could tell they were way too small. And so we have purchased approximately 85 shoes. The principal measures them, or assistant principal, and we have a very good price from one of the local shoe stores. And so they've written really touching thank you notes. And it's been one of the more rewarding things I've done. And this Saturday, the church people listening can help us. We are planning on putting that Gaga pit up for them. We've been waiting on the base. And this picture that you see today is what it will look like. So we will be over at South Wayne putting the Gaga pit up if everything goes right. So thanks for the monies and for the Satter children who helped pick out all those shoes. So you will hear more from us in the coming year on other projects to help the students. Oh, and also I forgot all the balls and equipment that they needed for the playground. We also purchased. So thank you.
Thank
Hi.
you, Pat. Oh, thank you, Pat. So a Gaga pit. That is that wooden structure that you see. I think it's octagonal, maybe septagonal, but my students love the Gaga pit. And it is a ball game. So they will all stand inside of the walls there and hit the ball. You know, they have to keep it below their knees. And there's all these, now my students have added all kinds of different rules to the game because they've tweaked it. But it, you know, there can be 10 to 15 kids in the Gaga pit at a time. So it's something that they truly enjoy. And I'm just so grateful that Pat brought this need to us. And every time she talked to the missions committee about it, you could see her face light up. So thank you, Pat. And one of the ways that we were able to do this is because other programs were canceled and there were funds available. I can't say that that could happen this year. So if this is something that calls to you, I'm sure we could find a way to accept any donations that can reach out to both schools, because both schools, I'm sure, are in great needs. I'm not sure if Washington Elementary has a PTA, but when I served on the PTA, I know that it was, you know, at my kids' school, that they were called upon to do the things that this principal couldn't find in their budget. And it's really vital. So thank you. We can go to the next slide. So this is about Project 216. Many of you have put your hands to good use, filling bags with dried vegetables, barley, broth, and rice. These were then boxed and sent off to others that are in much need of a good meal. One of the traits that I talk to my students about of humans is that we have the capacity to care for people we don't even know. And this is evident. So let's watch a little video about Project 216.
This year, our life would have been so different. Yes. Because
Henry Reynolds, family ministry coordinator at the church. Join us at
So I don't think that's the right video,
It's not. So give me just a moment.
but we'll hear from them again.
I am. Okay, having a hard time. Okay, Nancy, I'm gonna have you go on for a minute
Okay,
while I look for that.
okay. So I'll just move forward to the next slide, Denise, about.
Okay, I have it. I got it ready now.
All right, there we go.
You read? Let's see.
The power of live Zoom.
No kidding. I think we'd all know how to do this by now.
More than 200 meals packed into one small box. Hundreds of volunteers make that happen to help feed the hungry. They call their effort Project 216, and you get to see how it all packs up in this morning's Positively Fort Wayne. From pouring rice to sorting soy, volunteers with Project 216 have the bases covered assembly line style when it comes to packing up food for the needy.
My husband and I started it. We originally started as Kids Against Hunger, Fort Wayne, and a couple years ago went out on our own as Project 216. And yeah, we've raised our kids doing this, and they're experts at it now. I was like 5 years old.
You started when you were 5? One of those experts is Jessie. Do you have any idea how many boxes you packed up?
No idea, just a lot.
We are a humanitarian food aid organization whose mission is to help our community host events where they can contribute not only just financially, but also to do something to help people who are in desperate need of food throughout not only our Fort Wayne area, but also around the world too.
There's 4 components to this meal. Rice, which every culture around the world knows what rice is, knows what to do with it, and so that's kind of the staple of it. And then soy, which is really high in protein, so that's really important for people who aren't getting meat and beans on a regular basis. Dehydrated vegetables add a little bit of nutrition and some color and flavor to the mix. And then the real power behind the meal is the vitamin pack over there. It has 21 vitamins and minerals. It's really designed for people who are malnourished, especially children.
Really, our bread and butter is getting in the community, into the churches, into the schools, into businesses, and equipping them with a turnkey process, which you'll see behind me, to do the packaging of these packages.
And it's all funded by donations?
Yes, absolutely, all of it. And there's 216 meals in a carton, and that's like $54. So it's pretty reasonable.
Every year, Project 216 holds 4 public packing events. 2 have already taken place this year. 2 more are scheduled.
And we have one in September and then one in December.
And after a final pat down to level things off, they ring a bell when a box is ready to be sealed and sent off.
And we also ship to the Philippines and Haiti and then other locations throughout the world.
Such a doable way to make a difference.
Project 216, fighting hunger and giving hope, a mission that is positively Fort Wayne.
If you have a heart to serve, if you really want to do something about the 10% of the world's population that go to bed at night not knowing where their next meal is coming from, then this is an opportunity for you to do something about it.
You can take part in the public packing events or even plan one of your own with the group. For details, go to wayne.com and check out the Positive Project 216 story. A recap of this morning's top stories when First News returns.
That could be First Presbyterian Church. They're packing up rice and vegetables and all. So many of our volunteers have had a chance to laugh and socialize as they scooped and boxed together in McKay Hall back in 2019. However, 2020, we had to cancel the event because we couldn't come together to pack the meals that fed the hungry. Yet hunger did not go away. So let's find out a little bit about PDA buckets, if we can move our slide. When natural or human-caused disasters impact communities, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, or PDA, is poised to respond and work closely with congregations and local partners, bringing Christ's love and healing to people who have been struck by a disaster. Remember how lumber and other hardware and cleaning supplies were so difficult to come by last year? I'll tell you, Bill was a man on a mission to round up disaster relief supplies so that buckets could still be filled and sent to devastated areas struggling with hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, and winter storms. In this picture, You can't help but notice that McKay Hall is empty, except for a few staff members. That's because this photo was taken from 2020, the year of COVID, and our staff once again stepped in to help. Thank you. We'll move forward. Moment for Missions supports Presbyterian disaster assistance with spiritual and emotional care that is offered to survivors by volunteers. In fact, Bill Patterson is a PDA first responder. He meets with key people such as pastors and other community members to see what is needed and to offer help with fundraising. Large tent villages are built so that those who have lost their homes due to tornadoes in this case have a place to live. We can move forward. So as I was preparing this presentation, I got a letter from John McCall, who is a missionary in Taiwan. On this slide is a portion of his letter he sent. In it, he details how he spreads the comforting words of Scripture and offers emotional and spiritual support to the people in Taiwan. Moving forward. As if coronavirus wasn't bad enough, the summer of 2020 had its own set of challenges. The inequity and injustice faced by so many for years was voiced in our streets and across the nation. The tension and turmoil was hard to deny. Injustices towards fellow humans over the years was made clear, and we had no choice but to act. Thankfully, there was unity in citizens, giving a voice for the need for change. The call for community building was and is critical. We need to build bridges by building relationships to break down racial divides. Next slide. Sacred Conversations on Race is a curriculum that Annie brought to us. She was familiar with it from her experience in the St. Louis area during the Michael Brown's tragic incident in Ferguson, Missouri. During our conversations, we asked questions such as, where is the Del Mar divide in Fort Wayne? Where do we see aesthetics and security of neighborhoods make a noticeable change? We talked about systematic racism, white privilege, and ways that even faith communities have benefited from inequity. It was sorely noted that many of the conversations about social justice today are the same conversations held 50 or more years ago. So how can we make change? Well, let's first watch a little video about Sacred Conversations. Almost forgot.
That's all right. Let me make sure this is ready.
Religious point of view.
They're calling it Sacred Conversations About Race. They held their second meeting tonight. Wayne 15's Britt Soleil was there and joins us now with more. Britt.
First Presbyterian and Unitarian Universalist congregations have wanted to spark conversations about racism for some time now. But what they ultimately want to do is do more than talk. The First Presbyterian Congregation of Fort Wayne and the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fort Wayne are taking a look at systematic racism through a religious lens.
How do we as people of faith look at this issue? How do our sacred scriptures speak to this issue? And then how does that inform our actions moving forward?
Although the two churches are hosting it, Reverend Ann Epling, who was recently appointed to the Mayor's Commission on Police Reform and Racial Justice, says they have several churches represented in the crowd. Then there's also some like Joel Grillo, who heard about the Sacred Conversations by word of mouth and felt it would benefit himself to attend.
I want to understand why there's so much frustration, so much confusion. I want to understand why we can't all be on the same page.
He says part of that understanding is educating himself on where both sides are coming from. He feels as if he's already learned a lot from just the first two meetings.
We kind of talked about a cultural dividing point within the community and where that boundary may or may not be, north or south versus east or west, and poverty in the community and what that has to do, what kind of effects that has on the African American community as well as the rest of the community.
And while they feel education is necessary, in the end, they hope to turn their conversations into action.
That's the long-term goal here, is to move the needle forward. So talking is great. It's necessary to be educated and learn. But ultimately, you know, what can we do now?
The churches will hold more sacred conversations at Lakeside Park over the next 3 Wednesdays. In studio, Britt Soleil, Win 15 News.
So how can we make change? Well, let's change the slide and we'll find out. One way we're making change is by building relationships. A group from First Press is meeting monthly with Body of Christ Seventh-day Adventists, a predominantly Black church. Not only are we meeting people across racial lines, but also across faith. We are learning about similarities and differences in the way we worship, and hope participants will attend virtually each other's services. Recently, we have also shared stories from our lives. This has been a good way to get to know each other a little better before we start more uncomfortable conversations on race. Even in our storytelling, there are noticeable differences in the way we are treated due to systems and biases. So we can move to the next slide. I'm so happy that Annie was asked to serve on the mayor's task force on race relations. Annie, you want to share a little bit with us about your experience?
Sure, I am happy to do that. As some of you probably know, back in June, I was appointed to the Mayor's Commission on Police Reform and Racial Equity. This is a commission that Mayor Henry formed after the protests here in Fort Wayne, and I'm of the opinion, in large part because of the police response to those protests. As we know, they turned violent, and the police had on tactical gear and sprayed a lot of tear gas into the crowd. So the mayor formed a commission to look at what happened, and the commission really took a big look at it, and did not just look at the couple of days of protests here, but looked at our own police department, their response to calls that they get. We looked at internal affairs. We looked at the Board of Public Safety. We heard from protesters. We heard from attorneys for internal affairs. It was a very detailed look at what happens here, including state laws that affect all of this, the use of body cameras, which have now been implemented in the city for our police. We presented to the mayor just 10 days or so ago a long list of recommendations. You can find those if you Google it. It's on the city's website. This commission had 18 people on it. We met every other week on Friday morning at 8 o'clock. It was good, hard work. We were not always of one mind. We definitely had to reach consensus on issues. I was honored to be a part of it. But again, we had so many recommendations. I'll let you go to the website and read those yourself. And I am happy to answer any questions or talk to anybody about the work that we did. And it was led by Councilwoman Michelle Chambers, as well as Joe Jordan, who's the CEO of Boys Club, Girls Club, is who led the commission.
And Annie, we're so grateful for your work and involvement with that. and what you bring back to the church for that, with that.
Thanks, Nancy.
So we can move forward. Hey, the green team is a go again. So I'm so glad because we all need a little green in our lives, especially on St. Patty's Day. So look for suggestions in the e-news to see what simple changes you can make to live a little lighter on the earth. The green team also has a desire to reduce our carbon footprint by advocating for renewable energy and encouraging the local electric utilities to reduce their dependence on coal. Sherry Steiner is our chair, and she's going to share a few words with us now.
Thank you, Nancy. Patty Greist was the first person who applied for First Presbyterian Church to qualify for certification as an Earth Care congregation back in 2015. I was unaware of how involved this was until I submitted our application for recertification on behalf of the Green Team this year. Presbyterian Church's audit is quite extensive. It covers worship sermons, yard plantings, banners and displays, the number of paperless services, the use of eco-palms for Palm Sunday, education events, bulletin board displays, newsletter contributions, facilities management. How high efficient are your windows? Do your doors leak air? What's your lighting like? Do you have any solar panels? Do you have low flow toilets? What's the stormwater management? And are there recycling and waste measures in place? And do you spread the word through outreach? The audit categories of worship, education, facilities, and outreach have given us numerous practical ideas for things the Green Team can do in the future, including how we might bring back into use the cart that has stood empty in McKay Hall for the better part of 2020. Feel free to join us. We usually meet the third Sunday of each month at 1 o'clock, although this month we'll meet the week after because of our annual meeting. During COVID, the information to access these meetings on Zoom can be found in the newsletter, or ask Nancy or myself and we can provide you access information. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. We can move forward. So on Sunday, April 25th, we will be celebrating Earth Day and Arbor Day with a sapling giveaway. These will be young black cherry saplings, which are a manageable size to plant yourself. But remember, call your utilities to mark your underground lines. Look for us out in the parking lot on the 25th, and I'm sure we'll have a good word during our service about taking care of our beautiful earth. Moving forward. So how many of you have purchased coffee and other items from the Green Team's handcrafted wooden cart? It feels like a metaphor for the state of things over the past year. Empty, but ready to receive. Missions and its subcommittees have many plans for the future and hope you will be a part of them. So let's talk about how you can make a change. In my classroom, we have a semester-long project called World Changer. Students reflect on what is important to them and what concerns they have. We talk about what we call cosmic tasks, which we all have cosmic tasks. These are the gifts that we possess that contribute to the smooth running of society. I ask my students to think globally and act locally. Now I will ask you to consider what gifts you have that will benefit the common good. Missions at First Pres offers many choices for outreach to the neighboring community. So please take a few minutes now to think about what is important to you and what area of missions speaks to you. We can make our slide. I'll talk about black cherries in a little bit. So how can you help missions fulfill our desire to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and care for those in need? If you like, you can type it in the chat. Or as you know, we'll always take financial contributions, are also very much appreciated. because I fear that next year we will not be able to respond as readily as we did this year. This year we had funds available because of programs that were canceled. So we were able to respond to the needs. Will we be able to do that again next year? Only with your help. So that's my talk for this evening. As you can tell, it takes many hands, and we welcome your hands as part of our labor. There was a question about black cherries I saw. A black cherry is also a hardwood. So you might be thinking of a black cherries that are decorative trees. The black cherries that you would receive are a hardwood. They have a beautiful bark that I was told looks like burnt potato chips. And so they are a very small berry. It wouldn't be like a cherry that you would eat. In fact, I've been told that it was the black cherries. There's enough toxin in a black cherry, that seed, that reduces coughs. And that's why, if you remember the cough drops that were black cherry, it's because of that little word. So are there any?
Nancy, there's a question about what's a Gaga pit and what is it used for?
Okay, I think I saw that. I think I addressed that. It's a game that kids play outside with a ball, and you know, you can get quite a few kids into the Gaga pit, and then they get out as they get hit with the ball below their knees. It's a lot of fun. My students really enjoy it, and I'm so glad we're able to take it to South Wayne. But it will take some hands to get it put together.
Other questions that anybody has tonight for Nancy? You can leave it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. I also want to say thank you, Nancy, for all that you do and all that everybody does on the mission committee. I knew it was a lot, but listening tonight, I was like, wow, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's also incredibly rewarding work. So if you want to be a part of it, there's always something that we can do and have you do. So just let Nancy know, leave a message in the chat for us, but we'd love to have you involved. So questions from anybody?
Remember, many hands make for little labor.
In answer to the person about a Gaga pit, I have yet to find a child who didn't know immediately what a Gaga pit was. And the kids that the Satter family was really excited. I think they're going to help us on Saturday. And from what I hear, it is lots of fun, involves quite a few children at once. We did buy the balls to go with it. And I think South Wayne was maybe one of the few schools in Fort Wayne who didn't have one. So we're happy we're going to be able to do that for them. I never heard of one either until I was asked to help with one. That's what the principal asked for.
Any other questions? Nancy, are we still hoping to do another round of sacred conversations after Easter?
That is our hope. And anybody who would like to join us on our conversations, Tuesday evenings with Body of Christ, we'd love to have you. They have quite a few members. It's a very small church, but have been very involved. So we're getting to know each other with the storytelling. And then in May, probably, I think is when we'll start sacred conversations. And what will be different about this is that if you noticed during the summer, last summer, it was predominantly white people talking about our, really enlightening ourselves a little more. And so to have this conversation with people of color will make it that much richer and meaningful. So I'm really looking forward to that. And they're lovely people, Tancha and her family, and their pastor Kent. It's just really been delightful. And we've had a lot of conversations as we tell our stories. We all kind of interject, little byline, like the little sub stories, and really have gotten to know each other very well. Carrie's been a part of it. She's helped she was actually her idea to do the storytelling, and that really has been a big help.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else that people want to ask or comment on tonight?
Yeah, me.
Yeah, hey, Kathy.
Would Pat know or Nancy know how the pit got its name? What, a Gaga pit? What does that mean? Where did that come from?
I got it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. But like many of the adults here, I didn't know what it was until in my school, we have 3 Gaga pits around the campus, and the kids love it. I'm telling you, it's it's not like dodgeball where they're slamming each other with the ball. It's a bouncing game, and there's a certain amount of tactics to it. But kids seem to really know what it is and love it. So I should have gotten a video of my students playing it.
Other questions tonight? I don't know that I see any. Somebody wrote in the chat, oh, Gaga Ball is a dodgeball variant that has been sweeping through school districts in the past several years. The game is thought to have started in Israel. Gaga means touch in Hebrew and was played in Jewish summer camps beginning in the 1970s, according to a 2012 article in the New York Times.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
I mean, I can see how it's like a dodgeball, but dodgeball, we don't allow dodgeball on a recess in my school because it's a game of slamming the ball at each other, and that's not what this game is. It's a bounce and then hit.
I think Kathy Beatty has a question.
Yeah, Bob has.
Hey, this is really directed to Annie. We were all very pleased that you participated in the Mayor's Commission, and I think that gave the First Presbyterian Church some recognition of the capabilities that we can do. And I'm wondering, are we able, or do you think will you or other members of the First Presbyterian might be able to participate and be on other mayor's committees? It's sort of like, I know the church that I was at in Columbus, as members, we had the governor, the chairman of the Supreme Court, and the state senator all were members, and they in turn brought just their participation and knowledge that they were members helped the church in Columbus grew by quite a bit. And I'm thinking if we are able to participate in other committees or contribute to other committees with the leadership of this community, that in turn may help the church grow and become even more prestigious and recognized for its capability. And
yeah, sure. So, I'm not quite sure how to answer that, Bob. I do believe that the city is always looking for people to serve on various commissions. Not all of them are, appointed by the mayor, but I believe there's an application process. Somebody who could help with that, of course, or would have knowledge of that, is Jeff Paddock, who's a member, councilman for District 5. But I think that they're always looking for people to take part in various city
Yeah.
committee positions, and if that's something that interests you, or somebody, something that interests somebody on this tonight, I mean, there are a couple of people I could probably put you in contact with, but again, I think that Jeff Paddock would also be of a big help there.
Yeah, I've already talked to Jeff a couple of weeks ago, or last time I saw him, and I see him about once a month at another meeting we go to. And he and I have already had a beginning conversation on that.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I think the more people that want to get involved in the city, just like with any organization, the better off it'll be. I think that the city particularly does need representation from underserved communities and communities of color. I know that that's something we talked a lot about on the mayor's commission, but yes, certainly anybody is able to apply for various positions. Other questions anybody has this evening? I don't see. Denise, do you see anybody with a question?
Nope.
Okay.
And there's nothing in chat.
So our last conversation is next week. That is Tony Belton, who's our Director of Community Engagement and Communications. If you have ever wondered to yourself, what are we doing to reach out to the people next door in those new lofts? Or, hey, how did that love bomb come to be? Or what about this stuff on Facebook that I'm reading about? Or how did we get on the news for Sacred Conversations on Race? All of that sort of stuff, as well as how we are looking at getting new members. That Tony does a lot of that work for us. He's kind of our behind the scenes guy. So it's a great opportunity for you to get to know him and for him to tell you about what he's been up to, as well as some exciting initiatives. Tony always has an idea. So always got something up his sleeve. So encourage you to come back for that last one next week at 6:30. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it.
There's another question that just came into chat. Most appear to be food related. Are there others that what were mentioned other than what were mentioned this evening? Clothing, housing, refugees, etc. Nancy?
We've been approached by Habitat for Humanity, and that would be a possibility when you're talking, that would take a crew of people. Green Team is another opportunity. Housing, well, I would think that would be Habitat for Humanity, and then probably the rescue mission.
Well, we support the international missionaries as well, Nancy.
Yes, and that was the Mr. Hall that we sent. And I'm always welcome anybody that would like to help communicate to the missionaries from our church. They send us letters and we can certainly be writing them back about what we're doing. So I'd welcome any ideas. We always have an open agenda.
All right, thanks. I am going to go ahead and close us in prayer tonight. So let's pray. Look with compassion, O God, upon the people in this land who live with injustice, disease, and death as their constant companions. Have mercy and help us to eliminate these things to our neighbors. and strengthen those who spend their lives establishing equity and equality, and grant that every person may enjoy a fair portion of the abundance. Continue to watch over the mission committee that they may continue to live out our calling to be a neighbor to all. I give you thanks for everybody that contributes to their work and all that they do. And it's in your son's name we pray. Amen. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the conversation tonight. And thank you, Nancy, so much for leading us. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks.